Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about some of the tight ends and DBs to watch throughout this NFL Combine, and now it's Hot Take Thursday, and you see it at the bottom of the screen. I know this is not something that a lot of people share with me, but I do think college football will be okay, and I will go into some detail explaining that. But let's start with what's going on around this sport because these are scary times. Let's say it how it is. There are a lot of fans that are worried that the sport that they love and the things that they love about it are going out the window, and I think some of them are right. Let's be honest. The transfer portal has opened a whole can of worms that used to not really affect college football all that much, and that was a huge lightning rod. And then NIL came into the mix and created some recruiting battles that were a little bit sketchy at times, and uh, conference realignment came in and ruined a lot of things. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about the future of the sport. A lot of reasons to worry that all of this stuff that we love, that we look forward to watching every single week, might be a little gone over the next couple of years. But what I can say with absolute confidence is, at the very least, we're getting towards answers. And I can't promise that they're going to be the exact answers that you all want. I can't promise that everything is going to be totally hunky dory at the end of this, but everything is being pushed towards answers, right? We talked earlier in the week about Tennessee and the NIL fight against the NCAA. The NCAA losing that is huge because it essentially sets the precedent that most of their rules are against antitrust laws, and they will not get that exemption from the bigger courts. So that opens a huge door in NIL that needs to be fixed, right? It needs to be closed again. It needs to be closed in a way where it actually makes sense. And I talked about some of the ideas that I had for that. I think contracts that make these players employees, while that is a little bit of a sketchy predicament, which we will talk about tomorrow, some interesting comments from the NCAA's, I believe Charles Baker, about this. But there's tons of questions, right? There's tons of things up in the air in this sport, but I do think we're coming to a place where the questions are going to be answered. We are going to get to a format, and maybe you won't love that format. I can't promise you'll absolutely love that format, but we'll have one. We'll have a structure of how this sport works. We'll have an idea of what things are going to look like, not only this year, but in 5 years and in a decade. We'll have the ability to actually look at this and say, this is the sport that we have, instead of not really knowing what sport we have. So I think that's a huge plus, because although the end result might not be exactly what we want it to be, the end result will be there. So then you'll be able to make that decision of, do you want to stick around or do you want to bail? And I'll be totally honest with you. I think there's going to be a ton of people that currently say they're going to bail, currently say, if the SEC and the Big Ten take over, they're done, that will not actually do that. I'll be totally honest. I think there are a ton of people that will see the new way of things and will change course a little bit. And obviously, this isn't a perfect science. I think there's a real reality in the future where the SEC and the Big Ten break off and become their own entity and have a playoff that resides within themselves, and then you have a tiered college football system, which we have now. But there's got to be more divisions. I hate to say that you have to cut out some of the smaller teams from the bigger teams, because I love seeing App State play A&M a year ago and being able to knock them off. You love seeing these smaller teams be able to step up to the big leagues and see if they can hold punch for punch. But I don't see it necessarily as a reality anymore. I don't see it as something that can happen in this college football world, because at the end of the day, when you look at those teams comparatively to the SEC and everyone else, it's going to be tough for them to play at the same level, especially with all of the changes that are going on and the more and more power that is being pushed towards the SEC. So I really do think we are heading towards some type of tiering of college football, where we will have different conference champions. We will have different national champions in some ways, and it'll be a weird system. I'm not going to argue that it won't be a weird system, but I've held ideas about the future of college football for a very long time. And the central of those ideas is just as long as the in-stadium atmosphere, as long as I get to walk into that stadium and all of the outside stuff can be whatever it wants. The conference realignment can be what it is. Transfer portal can be off the walls. NIL can be sketchy. All of that stuff. If I can step into that stadium and still feel all that energy, still have all of the traditions, the Old Smoky going off at Texas, and the 12th man at A&M, and all of these touching the rock at Clemson, all of these incredible things that we do in college football that don't happen other places. As long as those things stay intact, I think we still have college football. And it's going to be different. It's going to be a different form of college football, but the thing that makes this sport special in a lot of ways is the people in the stands, right? It's the people that come every Saturday, that live and die by every play, and put a lot of their personal identity into these teams, whether healthy or not. But I do think there is a disconnect right now between what is happening in the sport and the steps this sport is taking forward and what the fans actually value about the sport, right? So there's a worry that with all of these changes around the things that are relatively trivial in the grand scheme of things, because as long as we have college football, we have college football, right? But once you get into those trivial changes, it changes a lot of different things that aren't so trivial. Let's say Florida State leaves the ACC, joins the Big Ten, and maybe Florida and them fall apart and they're not able to play that game anymore. So there's tons of problems with this. I'm not going to act like there isn't, some hurdles that they're going to have to get over, some changes that are going to have to be made. I think having a new governing body over the sport instead of the NCAA will go a long way to helping this get to its final form, and that seems like it could be coming very shortly. But at the end of the day, being able to walk into a college town on Saturday, whether it's Oxford or Athens or Austin or Corvallis, Oregon, it doesn't matter. There is an energy in that city, in that stadium, in that zip code that is different than anything else that we've ever had. So I think as long as we have that, as long as we have that energy around the stadium, around the sport, as long as we have that connection to these players in this university that a lot of fans do across the country, I think we'll be okay. It'll be a new form. It'll be totally different. It'll have new matchups. It'll have a new set. It'll have a new playoff that'll be very dominant. I'm not going to lie to you, but we'll still have the parts of the sport that make college football specific. We'll still have the fan bases. We'll still have the chants and the cannons and the tailgating and the LSU or Florida State riding out to the middle of the field and throwing a spear into the ground. All of this stuff is what makes college football specific and awesome. So as long as that stuff goes away, you have me. And I know you might lose some people throughout the process. I hope we don't lose a ton of people. But at the end of the day, everything in that stadium is what makes a college football game special. It what makes college football in general special. So as long as I have that in-stadium atmosphere, as long as I have all of that energy around the fans that love the same thing that I do, I'm good. The scheduling and all of that stuff will come into place and we'll figure out what that looks like. But I think all of the stuff that makes college football special is still alive and well. It's still there. We just have to look a little bit harder to find it. But I know that is maybe a hot take that people did not want to see. Obviously, college football will be okay. It's not necessarily the greatest hot take. You'd love that to be a cold take, but at the end of the day, it's been a very weird time for us. So all of the changes have made a lot of people worried. I thought I would try to subside some of those worries, so I hope I did that. I hope I helped any fan that is very worried about the future of the sport at least take a deep breath, I guess is the best way to put it. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means the world to us, so please remember to subscribe and leave a positive review. It helps a ton with us. And then also follow on Facebook, Twitter or X, TikTok, Instagram for all of the content updates, not only on college football, but on basketball, the NFL, all of baseball, all of the different things that you want to keep up with. We have it all covered by some remarkable people here, so definitely follow along on all the social pages. You will get everything you need to keep up with the sports world. But that will do it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.